us as ACTS. You know ACTS, right?
Yes.
No? Okay, good. Quiet. Don't make me look bad. I've got some of my staff in the back. So, I'm excited about tonight. Our purpose for this awareness event is to bring together the mental health community with the community at large to educate, inspire, and dispel myths about mental illness. We're going to have a very impactful presentation for you tonight. I had the privilege of talking to Kelly earlier. She's going to be awesome. But before I get to the awesomeness, I've got to do the mundane. So, please take a minute. Find your cell phone. Silence it. There we go. I hear little chimes. Good. Good, very good. All right. Bathrooms. Right through those doors. Straight across. Most important. Second most important thing. As soon as the program's over, don't leave because we will be feeding you. Barbecue. Stick around. You know, it should have somebody holding signs up that like applause is appropriate right now. Okay, please note the 4 exit signs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're good. In the event of a fire alarm, please leave the auditorium via the closest exit. We will assemble in the parking lot across the street at least 100 feet from the... I love this one. In the event of a tornado warning, the safest place is right here in the auditorium. We ask you to stay inside until the tornado warning is lifted. Hopefully they'll bring in the barbecue. Any more housekeeping? No. Okay. With the housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to jumpstart our formal programming and introduce the Prince William County Community Services Board Executive Director, Lisa Medron. Come on. Did I put the accent in the right place? Madron. Oh, Madron, I tried.
Thank you, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I am very pleased to be able to be here and welcome you and thank you for your participation. We also have some guests with us this evening that I would like to introduce to you. Mayor Rochelle from Manassas Park. Supervisor Anderson with the Occoquan District. And we have Jane Byer representing Supervisor Cadigan with the Potomac District. And our Human Services Deputy County Executive, Elijah Johnson. Thank you all very much for being here. Your advocacy, support, and your interest really means a great deal. I would also like to acknowledge our Mental Health Awareness Committee for this amazing event. The time that you've put into this, the energy, it's truly a labor of love because I know you start planning this from at the end of the previous year. And our community partners, Trillium, ACTS, and NAMI. Thank you all so very much for putting this together. You may have seen in the flyers for this event the words embrace, believe, and excel. This year's theme actually comes from the song This Is Me, which is from The Greatest Showman. I don't know if you're familiar with the song or the lyrics, but you might want to take a look at them if you're not. This evening is about embracing who you are, believing in yourself and in your future, and excelling to make it even better. Our presenter, Kelly Davis, is a very good example of this. Among the many things that you'll learn about Kelly is that she educates and speaks out about her lived experience and challenges so that others can speak openly about their experiences. This is what spreads mental health awareness and helps us care for our mental health and our well-being. This is what recovery is all about, helping a person reach the point where they want to be, embracing this, believing this, and excelling in the feeling of being who you are. not ashamed or hidden, but bold and brave. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thanks to Cynthia, I wanted to announce that officially today is Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day. This has just been decided, from what I'm told, so the timing couldn't be better. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Lisa. Now I know I heard a cell phone just a second ago. Everybody double check your cell phones. Okay. My job is to keep you online. All right. So now, let's get started. Why are we here? We're focusing on acceptance and self-love. Why are we doing that? Why? Well, because acceptance is a critical component of one's recovery and overall impact it has on one's quality of life. We need to accept who we are. I love our button, "This is me." Accept that. The goal of tonight's programming is to foster an environment that reflects acceptance by providing understanding, resources, support, and accommodations for the mental health community in Prince William County. Tonight's keynote speaker, Ms. Kelly Davis, Director of Peer Advocacy Support and Services, Mental Health America, will help us further explore radical acceptance and recovery. I'm going to read the official bio thing, and then I'm going to tell some stories. So the official, Kelly's lived experience with mental illness diagnosis and trauma are at the center of her passion for helping individuals who are struggling to receive a full spectrum of supports and services. And you'll hear as she makes her presentation that this is coming from a very real personal place. And what she's done for herself, she's doing for all of us. She currently works with Peer Advocacy Supports and Services. She's involved in promoting peer support nationwide, looking at peer support programs, getting a standard certification available for around the country, and looking in particular at college mental health. She's passionate about trauma-informed care, peer support, person-centered care, and civil rights. And you can see how all that comes together with civil rights. Everybody's got the rights to recovery and to a full and fulfilling life. And there's a lot we can do to make that happen for each other. And as you'll learn from Kelly, a lot of it is us making it happen for each other, not necessarily waiting for somebody else to make it happen for us. She's spoken at many events around college mental health and her lived experience, including at the White House, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. I've been saying that for 25 years, and it still trips me up. The Collegiate Recovery Summit, and her alma mater right down the road at American University. Why am I excited to be here tonight? I love talking to Kelly about the college experience. We were able to share some interesting stories together. She actually was about 10 years ahead of me in getting into her recovery with mental health. I remember very clearly for me, being in college, the first time I found myself curled up under a desk, knowing that something really wasn't right, and reaching out at home and saying I need some help, and Dad saying, "You gotta grow up, get over it." And it took me another 12 years before I sought out to get help again. Kelly was very fortunate. You were able to get help right when I was first shut down. But I did get help. Life got better, did what I was supposed to do, got support from folks, and I have accepted, I believed, and I've excelled. And this is why I say this is me, this is us. And Kelly's going to talk about the this is us that makes us special and helps us to really grow and to celebrate where we are and who we are. Kelly, please come up.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here. Are y'all ready to participate with me? Yes. All right. Are y'all ready? Are you having a good time? Yeah. Energy, because you're built into my presentation, so I need y'all to help me. So my name is Kelly Davis. I'm the Director of Peer Advocacy Supports and Services in the National Office of Mental Health America. I do work, as Steve mentioned, around the country. It's really exciting for me to be in a room with my peers, to hear all the awesome stories and hear about the recovery that everybody's having. I've also never been at an event that gave out free acupuncture or plants, so this is pretty cool. I might, I'm gonna keep coming back. And I'll get started. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my story, my recovery, and then hopefully we can have a dialogue where you all can share some of the things that have been helpful to you as well. So the clicker's not working, so she's gonna help me out. Peer support up here, yeah. Thank you. So I'm gonna go through embrace, believe, and excel. So do you wanna go, sorry, can you go to the first slide, please? So this is me, and I'll go where it all started. I think I was born into a family, as many of you might also be, with a lot of trauma, a long trauma history, a lot of diagnoses, a lot of treatment, and my family, you're the exception if you haven't been hospitalized. So from when I was really little, I knew something was different about me than other people. They didn't seem to feel the things that I felt, they didn't seem to react similarly as I did, and it felt almost like my feelings were too big for my body. And I couldn't explain it, and I didn't have the language to share with anyone else. So I actually had, if you wanna, sorry, you can just go next to, okay. I actually had, for me, my first suicide attempt, I was actually 10 years old. And I was lucky enough to get connected with treatment as a result of the state mandating me getting connected to treatment. And the older I got, the worse I seemed to get. So even though I had access to treatment, I was lucky enough to have services, the older I got, I had multiple suicide attempts, developed an eating disorder, developed a substance use disorder. A lot of traumas happened to me after I initially got connected to services. So it was very confusing for me because for my peers, the older they got, it seemed like their lives were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And for me, receiving access to these services and getting more and more negative messages about what it meant to be someone like me, my world was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and became less about what do I want and more about what's wrong with you, why can't you be like other people, and just treatment. 15 hours a week when other people in my class were worried about, oh, does this person like me? What's coming up on the exam? I was able to kind of put up a front and function, but I was trying to balance all these other things by myself. And by the time I was 19, I ended up with 12 different psychiatric diagnoses, and was told, 3 semesters into college, was told, you have bipolar disorder, people like you don't do well, maybe you should go home. And that was really hard because all of the things that I'd heard, several people in my family had bipolar disorder and were not supported early on and weren't really given adequate supports at all. So the information I had from them and from what I read online and even from clinicians around me was that your life is over, go home, you don't get to be like the rest of us, don't stress yourself out too much. So I was really devastated by this diagnosis. So fast forward, actually my freshman year of college, I was scrolling around on the internet and I came across this picture of an elephant. And as the caption for the elephant, it told this story. And it said, when elephants are babies in the wild and they're taken into captivity, they use these chains to keep them from running away. So the elephant grows up believing that they can't escape. So a baby elephant's about 600 pounds. A full-grown elephant is about 6,000 to 13,000 pounds. But what happens is they never try to leave because they've been trained their whole life that they can't do it, that these things that they're told will hold them back. It's not even worth trying for you. So that piece of information really radically shifted how I thought about myself. And these labels that I have been given and these messages that I have been given about what it meant to be someone like me in the world. And not only do you not get to do things, but you can't tell anybody about it because it's embarrassing. Because you don't want people to make fun of you, because it might affect your ability to get a job, because people don't believe all of the things, even though there's plenty of people out there doing well. I didn't know them. I didn't know people who were doing well who identified as being the same things that I was being called now. And just this story of the elephant gave me enough space to start questioning what I had been told. So I didn't have everything figured out, but I did have a new potential narrative. So maybe it wasn't all about what is wrong with me. And maybe there's actually a bunch of things that are right with me that I just hadn't thought about, because my whole life was really about how do we fix you as opposed to how do we support you in doing what you want to do. So I actually wanted to open it up to the audience. So for me, the story of the elephant was my first time, and it was just scrolling around on the internet. It was my first time that I had had information to challenge the things that I was told about myself, even if it wasn't directly about mental health. I had a story now that I could put myself in and say, you know, maybe the things that I was told were not correct. So is anybody here, I'm opening it up, anybody here have one specific moment where they realize, you know, maybe the limitations that I've been given or the things that I've been told about myself aren't actually true, or they might not be true? Anyone want to be brave?
I have a pretty good one. It's
Yeah.
funny. So I had a lot of dark days. Most of you guys know a lot of my story, but I had a lot of dark days and years of suicide attempts and couldn't get my life together. And I moved from Michigan to Virginia because I was having suicide attempts all the time. And a friend said, come stay with me. And so I moved to Virginia in like 2002. And I had one more suicide attempt, and I put myself into a local hospital. And in the hospital, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm grateful. In the hospital, I realized that I was doing a heck of a lot better than I was giving myself credit for by seeing the people that worked at the hospital. Sorry for saying that out loud, but it's true. You know, I felt like I was shortchanging myself and seeing myself in a dark place, and that was like a moment of clarity for me.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to chat? Does anyone else want to chat? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rosita, and I've been living here for a lot of years. But when I was younger, I lived in Georgia, and school was just integrating. And so, first of all, none of the teachers ever talked to me about going to college, and no one in my family had gone to college. So, generally, I didn't think that was even an option. And also, I didn't realize that I had suffered from depression. But later in community college, I did go to community college to become a secretary, and I was taking shorthand, and I took a political science class, and this professor said, what the hell are you doing here? And long story short is I ended up going from there to Harvard, but at Harvard is when I had my first anxiety break. I didn't even know what was happening to me. And it was early on that I realized that so many other students were also going through the same thing. And like you, I'm working with a lot of students at different universities to help them understand that how some of this stuff starts right at those crucial years in your early 20s. So that has made a big difference, and moving forward and helping really made a big difference. And peer support is awesome.
Anybody else want to share a big moment for them? Yeah.
When I was in middle school, I got teased a lot. I said, President Steiner. I can't do nothing. My dad was depressed too. My dad was gone now. Then I was at home by myself. I had depression. I'm over now because God helped me. God helped me one day. He told me, don't be depressed. He helped me out. He told me, don't be depressed. Be happy. Don't give up.
Anybody else want to share? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Here we go.
So I was diagnosed with autism and anxiety, depression, and bipolar. Through my high school, no, mid-middle school, I ended up trying to take my life twice. Well, I spent a lot of time outside. They kept telling me that you'd never be able to graduate, you'd never be able to do it. I finally did it.
Awesome. Thank you.
My name is Hannah, and I've been diagnosed with bipolar, ADHD, reactive capacity, and many more. But that didn't stop me from what I wanted to do. But I got hospitalized twice, and I just keep moving forward and never stop looking what I do.
Yeah.
My name is Billy. You know, I've been in the CPAC, the CSP board for around 8 years now. I just had a question. Are you happy? Are you happy with your life, your situation, the circumstances you're in? Physical reinforcement, love, dream, happiness. You shall get what you want.
In the back.
Hi, my name is Carl. I was pretty much down and out. I pretty much hit rock bottom after breaking up with an ex-girlfriend, and then I found Trillium and kind of rediscovered myself there. And so I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and I thought my world was over. And when I finally got to Trillium, after going there a few years and talking to people who had similar diagnoses, and I was able to develop I developed my social skills while I was there, and kind of got back to the workforce. And after a few years of going to Trillium, I actually started working there. So, going there, the resources there, and also CSP kind of turned my life around. So I was glad to have those resources available. To work for Trillium, I wouldn't be here today.
Anyone else feel inspired to share?
You know, 24 years ago, or back in 1994, my dad said to me when I walked out, I'll tell you the story. He told me one day when I defended something that I did to my mom's boss, he told me, he said, when we get back to the States, I don't want to have a thing to do with you. Well, that hit the light switch that I had to do something to take care of me. And that was back in 91 when we came back. In 1994, I moved out. And when I did it on Christmas Eve night. And I moved from town to town, or from place to place, but never outside the county. And he told me when I left that I would not be, that I'd be back within 6 months. That was 1994. It's now 2019, or 2018, excuse me. And with the help of some supports, as some had mentioned here, and with my own determination, I now have lived on my own for over 20-some years and been involved with the same person for almost as long. So, you know, my message to you guys, if you can do it, or if I can do it, you can do it.
that is a consumer and has been one herself from suffering from depression. I am well, I am whole, and I am happy. My son was diagnosed over 10 years ago, and I must say this, I have seen him come a very long way, as well as myself as a parent. And the things that used to really drive me crazy, I kind of laugh at them, the things that he just does. And I understand a lot more because I have researched. And to say this, you can't believe everything that you read because you be gaga. The other thing is that I have gotten into the community and to understand that I'm not trying to come from a place of fixing him and coming from a place that he's not broken, and just not for him, but for his peers as well. And just to say that you all are beautiful souls and you're beautiful spirits. And what used to drive me crazy about the things that he did, I just laugh at him now inside because I know that I'm not coming from a place of wanting to fix him. He's who he is. And I just want to say that we live in a time such as it is that those that are offering the services, the doctors, the clinicians, you all do a wonderful job because you're dealing with very limited resources. That I know. I used to come from a side where I used to be kind of offensive. Fix the problem. But coming from a side of just embracing who that individual is. So this is from a parent that's a business. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for sharing your stories. Thanks to everyone for holding space for everything that was shared. We have a round of applause for the stories, but also the resiliency that's just in this room. So, going to the next part, which is believe. Thanks. You might not be able to see that, but I'm really going to echo, I think a lot of us share similar stories, at least at the core. So I mentioned when I was little, I was like, something's wrong with me. I'm not like other people, and I don't understand what it is. And I have a very vivid memory of being about 7 years old and looking out the window in my room one night and looking at the moon and thinking, okay, I'm not the best at math, but there's a lot of people in the world, a whole lot of people. And there's gotta be at least a few people who are like me. So I'm gonna spend my life trying to find those people. And similar again to what's already been shared, another vivid memory when I was 16 years old and I was hospitalized after a suicide attempt. I was terrified. I'd never been inpatient for anything before. And I was in my bed and I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to sleep or what I was gonna do. And I stood up and I walked to the window and I looked out the window and it did not look like this. It was a back alleyway with like fluorescent orange light, an all scratched out window. And I looked out the window and I said, you know what? I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm gonna tell people when I get out of here. I don't know what my family's gonna do. I don't know what people are gonna think about me. I have no idea. I have no roadmap or no plan for how to deal with this. But the one thing I can promise myself is I might not believe that I can do this, but if I can figure it out, I can share it with someone else. And they don't have to make all the mistakes that I made, and they don't have to do all the things that I did wrong. And I think that's really similar to why most of the people here are in this room and in this work. So, rock bottom is a place that I thought I hit, and then I thought I hit, and then I thought I hit again, and then again, and I was like, okay, rock bottom, right? That's when you start your recovery. It didn't work like that for me. I don't know that many people who hit one rock bottom and they're like, because it seems that there's like the basement of the rock bottom, right? So when I was in college, as I mentioned, after years and years of treatment, right, since I was 10 years old, when I was 19, I was ultimately diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I was like, okay, it's either fix this or you die. That's about it. Those are my options, I know. Because I had a serious drinking problem. I was in a really abusive relationship. And I was like, I need to do something. None of the things that I've done so far have really worked. And I actually, accidentally, through Googling, found the consumer movement. And for the first time, in 9 years of services and treatment, I saw the word and the concept of recovery. And all of the things that other people with shared lived experience had come up with and created to change their lives and to change the lives of people like them. And I was mad because I was like, you took 9 years of my life when we knew a lot of the things that would help us. And it's not just, it's important to have access to treatment, but it's not just treatment, right? If I'm in an office 1 hour a week, I have to be in my head every other hour that week, right? So we need this community, we need self-help tools and yoga and acupuncture in your ears and all of these really cool things that is wisdom from inside the community. So in addition to, I still work with a psychiatrist, I work with a therapist, but in addition to those, I realized I had a mind shift that hadn't been explained to me before. So I've been an athlete, hence the basketball, and for those of you who were athletes, or really have developed any skill, what I realized was there was no one coming to fix me, there was no one coming to save me. If I was gonna get better and be well, I was gonna have to find little things that I could do over and over and over again that could change my brain, but also dramatically change the course of my life. So not only I had to believe, despite evidence from my past, and despite messages that I received, that things could get better, and really felt like I had no other options. And it was really the words and the wisdom of the consumer movement where I found out, and I was able to make this link, that if I do the next right thing over and over again, eventually things might look different, and that's what I did. So, that's me. That's my high school superlative was most likely to argue her way to Washington, so you can imagine what it was like to be in any of my classes. And the consumer movement, one of the major things that I had not been exposed to before, and I was so excited to see the Trillium booth out there, was what is right with me? That was never a question that I was asked. What am I good at? What do I care about? And what advantages and strengths does my lived experience, the things that I was told were going to ruin my life and feasibly make me be treated as less of a human being than other people, what advantages did that bring to me? And could people like me do well and make an impact? So in terms of advantages, and I think we've already seen this so far today, in most of your everyday lives and in this room, is that the empathy that comes with having this kind of pain and experience is something, it's like baptism under fire, right? Like once you know it, you can hold it for other people, and you can sit with them in that pain. And when other people might try to fix you, or where other people might get too uncomfortable, right, to deal with you. Like in college, when I went to the counseling center, they said, you're too sick. Go off campus, hopefully you can afford resources, right? When someone can't sit with you in your pain, it just reinforces the shame. I can't express this, I shouldn't think this is wrong. But the consumer community anything is really on the table. And someone will sit with you and they won't tell you it's wrong. They'll just hold space in the same way that we all just did for each other. The other piece too is that my sensitivity, that again was wrong with me, made me really good at noticing and naming all of the other bad things that were happening in the world. So I could identify, because I felt the pain myself and because I could see it in other people, I was able to not only see it but call it out. And it made me feel really brave that I could notice something was wrong, and in the same way that I wasn't supposed to talk about my experience, the other things that I wasn't supposed to name I could talk about too. In all different types of injustice that you're supposed to be quiet about is not only, as having that experience of you have to be quiet and you can't be yourself, noticing when other people are also getting that message and how we can work together to support them as well. Which was finally the consumer movement. Here you go. So as I mentioned, for me, it was really doing little things every day, searching for more information. So everybody has a different journey, obviously, but most of the messages that I was given were, you're a sick person, people like you don't get better, go home, is really what I felt. So searching for information that told me something else, that told me there were other options, and there were new things that maybe what I had been given wasn't working for me, or maybe it couldn't work with me without the other things that were important to me too. Finally being honest with the people around me, which is one of the things we're working on tonight, right? We shouldn't have to cut out. That's what it felt like. I have to cut out pieces of who I am and put them away and lock them away because other people don't want to hear about it. So having us speak out and name and say, I don't want to pretend I'm not having a hard time. I was on the floor for 3 days in a row. I don't want to have to get up and lie to you and pretend everything's okay. Because, as was mentioned in the intro, what happened for me was once I started getting better, and once I was like, oh my, people knew this stuff helped, and no one told me. I need to tell everyone, constantly, as fast as I can. And just having that ability to help one another through the stuff that we're learning opens up space for other people who have that same experience and who have other versions of your experience to talk to. As soon as I wrote an article about my experience in the psychiatric ward, my inbox flooded. Me too, me too, me too, me too. My cousin, my mom, my friend, I don't know what to do. And as soon as I started writing about it and posting about it, all of the people around me, I spent 10 years thinking that I was the only one, and I was surrounded by people like me. And by me finally being able to own it and say, you know what, this is who I am. If you think that this is bad, if you don't like it, I'm still gonna be me. Like I can't undo this. So this is what we're working with. If you don't like it, you don't have to be my friend. That's it. And being that honest and open and say, you know what, like this is me, I'm doing this, helped me attract other people like me who felt the same way, that they were the only one and that they had to hide. And getting clear on what things mattered to me. So for me, it mattered more to be able to be honest about my experience, even though it really upset my mother for the first 3 years I talked about this publicly. Being okay with that and saying, you know what, it's more important for me to try to change the conversation about this stuff and to try to share the messages that saved my life than it is for me to have other people feel comfortable with what I say all the time. So, and this was my hero's journey, right? I had all of this stuff that was happening, and it gave me so much strength to say, you know what, this is a journey that I'm on, and all these bad things have happened to me, and I've been told what I can't do, and now I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna push through, and I'm gonna share it with other people. So, opening it up to the crowd again, especially because we had really great chairs last time. What mantra helped you? Or what would you tell your younger self? Because I think for a lot of us, I just had this conversation today, I do this, right? I dedicate all of my time to this work because I don't want anyone to have my experience, right? I don't want people to have to wait. I don't want people to lack the comprehensive resources and help. So what either really helped you, what story, what ideas helped you, or what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself?
I would say to myself to be patient and kind, because there was times that when I felt that no one understood me and what I was going through, it kind of made me feel like a misfit in society, only to find out that I am a normal person. I just have a chemical imbalance. I was very ashamed of my diagnosis and to share it because a lot of people ridiculed me as a child till I grew up because of the differences that I had displayed, I guess, my behavior. So I would say to be patient and kind, that things will come and work out.
Thank you.
I had a mantra. So I have a bunch of diagnoses, and I think when I couldn't get beyond my anxiety, I just started telling myself over and over again that if I'm living with anxiety, I just need to get comfy feeling uncomfy, because I couldn't get beyond the anxiety, so I was just going to have to get used to it and move on. So get comfy feeling uncomfy.
I know y'all have them. I realized that I was in the right place when I saw that everybody else, many of the other people like me's rooms were also covered in quotes and like their Instagrams and Facebook were all inspirational content. So anybody else want to share? Go ahead.
I would give advice to my younger self that I would tell my younger self that there is no such thing as normal. Everyone has their problems. There is no such thing as normal.
Thank you. So there's no such thing as normal. Everybody has their problems. And yeah, I echo that. Like I mentioned before, not only were people who had been given mental health diagnoses or had substance use disorders or whatever language that they used to describe themselves, not only did me speaking openly about my experiences make that okay, it makes emotional vulnerability of any kind okay, right? If somebody says, I'm going to show you my cards, and I'm not afraid to. It opens up space for people, no matter what they want to call normal, no matter what their experience, everybody can be more honest and compassionate with one another. Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here. I think the mantra that helped me believe, one of my strongest core values is I believe in God. And I always tell myself that whenever I face a challenge, that with God all things are possible. Regardless of what I go through, that's something that I always live by. And as far as what I would call my younger self, I got diagnosed kind of late in life. I was in my late 20s. And
No, not 5 minutes. I would tell my younger self that when you reach out for somebody seeking understanding and you don't find it, reach out again to somebody else.
So after my first assault, I went through like a major depression and suicide attempt and lost my scholarship to school. I'm serious. Lost my scholarship to school. But when I was really little, my mom did a conference called the Especially Me Conference. And their motto was, nothing can dim the light that shines from within. And I don't know, it really hit me at age 19. And no matter what people think of you or no matter what people do to you, you know, nothing's going to change who you are. And you've got to embrace that.
Go ahead.
I'll just throw this in. One of the things that I had learned in the many years that I have received help, because, by the way, I am bipolar, also have some personality disorders. But I learned many times in my young life and in my adolescence, my young adulthood, and now even today, that my life is mine, regardless of what anybody else thinks. My life is mine. Nobody else is going to do it for you, and they don't want to anyway. So, like you said, they don't have to be my friend, they don't have to appreciate it. My life is mine.
And then I can speak a little bit. It was brought up, I have a very strong affinity for the Rocky movies. I'm from the Philadelphia area, so and I'm Italian, so he's my guy. And actually, the background is when I was in high school, I mentioned earlier my first hospitalization, my family told me not to tell anyone. So I was not sure how to explain why I was suddenly out of school to people. I was in IOP, so I was in treatment 15 hours a week, plus the time it took to travel to treatment. And I had all of my classwork not only to make up from the time that I was out, but also that was going on as I was coming back to school. And I didn't know I didn't feel like I could really talk to anyone about what had happened to me. I was so embarrassed that I tried to kill myself. And what got me through was every night I would watch the Rocky movies. And there was something about, the tagline for the first movie is his whole life was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. And in the movie Rocky Balboa, I'll tell you the quote that is my mantra that sticks with me. It's tattooed permanently on my foot. So in the movie he is older, and he comes back to fight. They do this virtual gamified version of the fight with Rocky versus the new young guy who's the big boxer, and he's like, oh, I gotta come back and prove myself and all that stuff. And he's outside talking to his son. And his son's like, I got, stuff for myself, and you're coming back, and I'm in your shadow again. And he turns to his son, and he says, let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and awful place, and it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. And that grittiness, instead of you're sick, that grit became part of my identity. And it was, you can throw anything at me. I do this, I'm isolated, I'm by myself, and I'm gonna figure this out. and you can't take it from me. You might not like it, you might not like who I am or what I am, but what you won't be able to take from me is I'm the type of person who can deal with assaults, who can deal with childhood sexual abuse, and all of the things that built up, and all the things that were told about myself, and keep going, and keep fighting for myself. And the last portion is excel. So, I want to open it up. I think, and I used this line already one time today, but what has always been really interesting to me is that in the field of mental health and behavioral health is the only service where the consumer of the product is wrong. So anything else, if people are having a hard time, it's because something's not meeting their needs. Versus I felt like, as somebody who was being served by services, that I was told if it wasn't working for me that I was wrong. And I think one of the awesome things about the consumer movement is that I still deal with my mental health challenges. They did not go away. I still deal with depression, PTSD, was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, all of those things. I'm sober, recovered from eating disorders. None of that disappeared. None of it went away. I still live with it. It still comes up. It still gets triggered. For me, it wasn't completely getting rid of that stuff that made my life a good life. And I felt like I got the message that if only we can manage you, if only you can maintain and don't stress yourself out, then you're at the best you can do. And what the consumer movement has done for mental health services from within is say there's other things that matter to us. And I get to define what outcomes are important to me for me. So in the excel, it's not just excel because you have a mental illness and nobody thinks you can do anything. It's excel because you found the things that matter to you in your life and you get to do them now. So I don't want to tell anybody what excelling looks like because I don't know what's important to you as an individual. So I wanted to open it up for folks to share, something they didn't think that they were going to get to do, or something that they were told that they weren't going to get to do, that is a big, important part of their life now.
I've been practicing art for
Okay.
I've been practicing art for several years, and I never thought I'd get this way in the gallery, but I kept on pursuing that goal. And I've been displaying in Fredericksburg's gallery twice. The historic Fredericksburg gallery. I've been there twice, and it's just a wonderful feeling. Art is my therapy, and so it's just a wonderful experience. It's not important to win awards or anything, but it's just very self-gratifying to see art displayed in the gallery. So I don't know, it just feels good.
Thanks for sharing. Good, how are you?
I was a minister of facility, and I'm myself and my question for you guys would be to ask if anybody gets stuck in the mental health facility, what can they not be stuck in that moment to find out what they can do in the future in the community?
Do you mean from an advocacy perspective?
Yes, ma'am.
I would be happy to talk to you about that after the presentation. Or can definitely chat about that later. I don't want to derail or take up too much time, but that's obviously a very important question, and I think I've referenced that. I know that that's a big problem, so I'm happy to talk about that later with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kelly, first of all, thank you for that rocky point, because that really fits into how I think about excelling. And I think one of the things that I used to do is I thought once I got help, then I would be on this, I'd be okay, and everything would be fine. And then as you realize that life does knock you down, and you have to say, I'm going to get back up, I'm going to dust off and get back up. But one thing that I have found is that with each knockdown, I know now that I have learned things that I can use to help others, and hopefully the reason for that X knockdown will help someone not go through that part. So it's a constant learning experience, it's a lifetime learning experience. And we know that, the fairy tale happily ever after, we have to get rid of that fairy tale because it's not like that, but it is still a beautiful, wonderful life.
Thank you. Yeah. I think one of the really cool parts of getting to do this work is now when I'm having a really hard time, one of the first questions I ask myself is, how can I use this? What can I learn from this to help someone else? And I think that that's for people who work in the peer world. That's a big helpful thing to help you move through whatever's happening to you. Oh, okay. I just saw your hand.
Okay, I've got one. It just came to me because my peer is sitting near me, and it just came to me. So I might have a little bit of a different story than some people. I've been getting mental health services, not from CSB, but from the private sector, whatever, for 35 years. I had a traumatic childhood. I just have plain old major depression, which sometimes I feel like, should it be this serious? Is this a serious mental illness? It's a very serious mental illness. It's very debilitating. And as we get older, sometimes it knocks on your door a little bit more often. But what I think excellence is not being perfect. It's not money or education or anything that anyone else can see. But it's learning how to sail. And sail, I don't do any sailing. I'm actually afraid of water. But one thing I do know is that it is that you're on an ocean that is very turbulent, and that nobody gets through life without trauma, and no one is free of despair or turmoil in their mind or in their body. And we are not different if we have a label or a diagnosis. We're just human beings. So if you can learn to sail through life, navigate those seas, then you are excelling as a human being. So I just hope that everybody has a good trip.
Thanks for sharing. So, thanks everyone for sharing. I argued my way to DC, despite being told I shouldn't go to college, despite being told I should drop out of college, despite being told all of the things that came along with the new ideas, the new labels that I was given, and these prognoses that were, people like you don't do well. And I actually, like many of you in the room, was able to take the worst days of my life and the things that were supposed to be the most shameful things about myself, and that I should never tell anyone because they won't want to be my friend, or they won't want to marry me, or they won't want to hire me, or all of those things. And that is my greatest strength now. And I get to use that every day to not only help myself say well and stay engaged, but to help other people and to share the message, and to get rid of this idea that, we don't do well, or we can't be well. And staying healthy and taking care of myself is important. Absolutely. I can't do anything if, and I still deal with mental health challenges, and I can't do anything if I'm not meeting my own basic needs, right? That's implied, that's a given. But I don't define my life anymore by symptom management, which is what I did for 9 years. Is that, this is a part of me. This is something that I don't have to be proud of. This is something that I use to serve other people. And I can want and do plenty of other things too. and I can explore relationships, and I can make new friends, and I can find meaning, and I can achieve, and I can do all these things. I became a yoga teacher and a group fitness instructor, and all of this different stuff, all of these new identities, when my only identity used to be you're a sick person and people like you don't do well. And now I'm able to excel, not because of me suddenly being transformed into some other thing, but despite all of the things that I was told about myself. So, this last piece. When I was in the hospital, as I've mentioned, when I was 16, they made us watch this movie. It was called Pay It Forward. And the idea was, as many of you know, someone does something for you, and you pass it along. And I feel so blessed and grateful to the folks like me who have come before me, who created the things that helped me have the life that I have today. And there is no greater honor, I think, than being able to share that message with more people. Thank you.
I hate saying one more applause, but Kelly, we need to give you one more applause. Thank you for sharing who you are, what you do, and inspiring us to do the same. To do the same and pay it forward. Thank you. Now that we've completed the keynote presentation, we have an award that we give every year as part of this event, and it's the Voice of Recovery Award. And it was established in 2011 in memory of our colleague, a job coach and friend. Some of you knew Jenny Vaughn Bates. Jenny was a strong advocate, collaborator, and team member who was respectful to all and honest in her communications. This award recognizes a mental health consumer, provider, or organization that embodies these qualities. And I would like to have my friend Cynthia Dudley come up to announce the award. I'm not sure if anybody doesn't know Cynthia Dudley, but she's the executive director and co-founder of Trillium, and she's the co-chair of the Mental Health Awareness event tonight. So if you liked it, you've done a great job.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, you got that. Okay. Kelly, you're amazing. You're my hero. So I'm not Lucy Stephanie. Lucy Stephanie was supposed to present the award tonight, and she got bronchitis, so you get me. I hope you've enjoyed the event. And I get to present the Voice of Recovery Award this year because of bronchitis, of all things. And as Steve mentioned, it was created years ago in honor of Jenny Bates. And I had the pleasure of meeting Jenny. It was shortly after we opened Trillium, and she walked in the door and very quickly made it clear that I had hired one of her people. And the intensity in this woman and the care that came from her, and I think she was kind of making sure I was going to do a good job with one of her clients and not mess up her good work, you know? She kind of scared me the very first visit. But I think I did pretty good with her client, and I got to know many more of her clients, and some of them are in this room, I think. And it was a tragedy when we lost her, but we wanted to honor her because she was such a champion for mental health recovery. And even when someone moved out of her service, she just stayed committed to make sure they did well forever. So I can honestly say that I miss Jenny. I loved meeting her and working with her, and she did a phenomenal job. And so when we look for someone to give this award to, we look for similar qualities. And
And so I'm going to tell you who's going to win the award, but then I want to read what was written about her because it really moved the entire committee. And so this year it's my honor to present the Voice of Recovery Award to Vicki Huttman. Last one on Vicki, for some reason the committee just conspired to surprise you. I'll call you up in a second. Let me read this first, okay? So, you guys, I'm shaking a little bit because I wasn't prepared to do this, and I'm not old and I can't see, so bear with me while I give Vicki a few minutes to think about what to say. Sorry, Vicki, but it was fun. In her extensive work in CS emergency services before transferring to New Horizons, Vicki always championed normalizing the experience of consumers who were in crisis, making sure to advocate for them with private hospitals, ER staff, and law enforcement. Vicki works to reduce stigma and encourages consumers that there is life after mental health illness and/or crises, as she continues to do with the children she works with in New Horizons. Outside of her in the advocacy world, spending countless weekends and weeknights at rallies and attending community meetings, Vicki fights for the rights of marginalized, including women, the LGBTQIA, did I get all the letters? And, community, and those with chronic mental health conditions, especially Alzheimer's and dementia. Whether it be by march attendance, urging others to vote, or writing letters, making calls to legislators, Vicki cares deeply. Did it shut me off? Oh. I thought I got... Are you shutting me off? Vicki cares deeply about her fellow man and goes above and beyond the call of her clinical work to facilitate the betterment of our country at large. Vicki Huttman, will you please join me up here on stage?
That's a surprise, but people that know me know that I do speak up. Whether you like it or not, I definitely speak up. You definitely know where I stand. So thank you so much to everyone for this surprise. That's such an honor. And thanks to my emergency services team and my New Horizons team, because they made me really who I am as a clinician, but the speaking up part I came with already. So that's what I would say back to you guys, speak up. I tell you, I work with probation now, I work in emergency services, I argue with the hospitals, and I try to speak up for all the consumers and all the people in treatment because they don't sometimes know how to speak up, and I think that's the most important thing, is use your voice, whether people like it or not. Just use your voice and say what you need, all right? Thanks.
Congratulations, Vicki, and thank you, Cynthia. You did a great job. End of the program, and now you get the clapping stuff down. Very good. As we prepare to close out the formal program, I'd like to welcome Emcee Strouderman. I got it. Deputy Director of Clinical Services to the stage because she's going to deliver our closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address you in this wonderful event. I really want to thank the committee. The work that you do is just amazing. And every year I think the numbers go up. So thank you to all of you, our partners. This is a phenomenal event, and it really honors the work that our peers are doing, that each of us do, all the professionals who are involved in this very important field. So thanks to all of you. Appreciate it. We had a couple of special guests who entered the auditorium after the original introductions were made. I'd like to take a minute to thank them for coming. Delegate Elizabeth Guzman and also Delegate Ayala. If you're here, you can stand up. Thank you, Steve. You did a great job as our Emcee. We appreciate it. Special thanks to ACTS for all the work that they do on behalf of our community. I want to thank you, Kelly, for presenting today. It was very inspiring. I really appreciate your willingness to share your lived experience. I think it's important for you to know, and for all the peers to know, all the consumers to know, that not only sharing your experience benefits the other people who are in their recovery journey, but it truly benefits those of us who are mental health professionals. It enriches the work that we are able to do, and it has improved the practice. It has, I believe, helped all of our consumers, and I want to thank each and every one of you who are willing to share your experience. Thank you so much. I want to congratulate Vicki. Congratulations on your award. You do speak up, and that's a great trait. Thank you for doing so. As we close the formal portion of this event, we want to invite all of you to continue because we're going to celebrate with food, which is always a good thing. It's always important to break bread together. So stay and enjoy dinner and dessert with us. Dinner is going to be served at 6:30 just outside the auditorium doors. I would like to invite our honored guests, our Emcee, our keynote speaker, and Vicki, of course, to please go to the head of the line. You get to eat first, so please enjoy. And I really want to thank everyone for coming this year. We look forward to having you again next year, and best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
You're not sponsored with this.